Hello and welcome to the High Note Podcast. I am your host, Sean Smith. Hey, I hope everybody's doing well. I just got back from the Philadelphia Folk Festival, and I had to take a minute to talk to an amazing opera singer. I think this is the first opera singer, second Grammy award-winning artist. The first was Tony Trischka, the banjo player who won a Grammy Award, and John Brancy is my guest today on the High Note Podcast. And John is coming to Atlantic City to perform at the Claridge Hotel, 8:30 p.m. Saturday, August 23rd at the Celebrity Theater at the Claridge as a benefit concert for the Atlantic City Arts Foundation, and it's part of the North to Shore Festival, which is super cool. John is an amazing guy. We have a really cool conversation. I feel like I kind of ping pong around, but we do circle around his whole journey about how a kid from New Jersey becomes a Grammy award-winning opera singer, and then we'll come all the way back around and do something to support Atlantic City, which is really, really cool. They're calling it the 609 Club, so you can purchase tickets at 609club.com, or if you search on Eventbrite, 609 Club or John Brancy, it should show right up. And again, this is a benefit for the Atlantic City Arts Foundation, which is really, really cool. I love the Atlantic City Arts Foundation and everything that they're doing. If you're not from Atlantic City, if you've never been to Atlantic City, the murals in Atlantic City have been absolutely amazing to see their evolution. They're all over. Some of the coolest ones, some of my favorites, I love the there's a piano one on Kentucky Avenue. There's a really cool, I guess you would call a wizard on Pacific Avenue, kind of in the Orange Loop area near New York. I think it's closer to Tennessee, New York Avenue. Super cool. Absolutely love the Atlantic City Arts Foundation. And I thought it was absolutely incredible for this guy, John Brancy, to, number one, speak to me, but also to give back to Atlantic City and to the Atlantic City Arts Foundation. And the North to Shore Festival is really cool. If you don't know about that, that is a statewide program that brings arts to from North Jersey all the way down to Atlantic City here. And John is, a globally known opera singer. He's a baritone and might be the best speaking voice that we've had on the podcast. And he is such a nice guy, super down to earth. I think we have a great conversation. You can check out his album. He did a collaborative album with pianist Peter Dugan, who will also be performing with him this Saturday, August 23rd at the Claridge Hotel. That program's going to be about an hour, by the way. So it's a nice early show. It's 8:30. You're out by 9:30. You can catch another show in town, and it's right there at the Claridge. So you're kind of like in the middle of the city. It's super close to get around anywhere that you need to go. So he did an album called The Journey Home, live from the Kennedy Center, which was inspired by the 100th anniversary of the end of World War I. So really, really cool. He also has performed at Madison Square Garden during New York Rangers hockey games. So so we talk about all of that in this episode of the podcast. Check out the show notes, and I'll put a link to the 609 Club tickets, as well as how you can get in touch with John and follow him. And I'll put a link to his album too, because I think it's definitely worth listening to, as is this podcast. So please enjoy my conversation with Grammy award-winning baritone John Brancy. John Brancy, welcome to the High Note Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Sean. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. I think vocally, since you are a Grammy award-winning baritone, you might be the clearest, most amazing voice that I've ever had on the podcast. So thank you for being with me today.
Thanks. I always make an effort, to put the best voice forward on anytime when I'm recording or, doing a sort of podcast.
Yeah, well, you're bringing the gold today, so you sound amazing, and I really appreciate you specifically because you're coming to Atlantic City this upcoming Saturday, August 23rd, to do a show for a organization that's very near and dear to my heart, the Atlantic City Arts Foundation. Do you want to tell me a little bit about what's coming up?
Yeah, so August 23rd, that's Saturday night, 8:30 p.m. we'll be performing at the Claridge Hotel in the Celebrity Theater, and it's going to be a program of songs that will include a lot of the sort of like Frank Sinatra Rat Pack classics, some new music, actually, some new songs that have maybe never been heard before, actually, and original arrangements of very famous songs, and some very specific Atlantic City songs as well that we've reimagined, like On the Boardwalk in Atlantic City, for instance. And so yeah, that's this Saturday, 8:30 p.m. And you can get your tickets at 609club.eventbrite.com or by going to my website, johnbrancy.com/events. So, and 609 Club is like a play on the old Frank Sinatra led 500 Club in Atlantic City.
Of
It's kind
course.
of like, yeah, it's kind of like a reimagining of the popularity of this club, which was also known as the Five, that basically operated from the 1930s until the building burned down in 1973. So, and you know it probably had so many more people than this, but Frank Sinatra performed there, Sammy Davis Jr., and like Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis. So like it just is such a callback to that time in Atlantic City's history where there were such major movers and shakers with regards to the music world, specifically Frank Sinatra, kind of posting up and creating a really long-standing environment of cabaret and nightclub specific music. And I've seen more and more of that coming to life as I've been visiting Atlantic City more, over the past 3 years, with the Hook, and now Hard Rock kind of going in on the cabaret idea as well. But we're trying to like sort of keep it as um, historically accurate, but also while also giving that extra, modern flair, but really making it feel historic in that we're going to be in the Celebrity Theater in the Claridge, which was built in 1930, So there's no doubt that Frank Sinatra stayed there and he performed there himself. So that's pretty cool to me.
Yeah, I mean some absolute legends. I was doing a little bit of research before we hopped on the call here, and I mean Aretha Franklin, Donnie and
Mm.
Marie,
Wow.
Joan Rivers, Penn and Teller, the Isley Brothers, just to name a few. And of course, yeah, Sinatra had a huge connection with Atlantic City and the 500 Club. I believe that Sinatra loved the swimming pool at the Claridge, if I'm not mistaken. That could have been just a local legend thing.
Well, I think maybe I know the other local legend is that he actually in the uppermost penthouse, which is actually above the view, which is the rooftop bar that they have. Apparently, that was actually his sort of like condo.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so that's also maybe local legend stuff, but maybe it's real. I don't know, but there's definitely. I mean, the ghost of Sinatra will be attending. We've got official reads on that. So
Oh, that's amazing. Now, what is your connection with Atlantic City? Where did you grow up?
so I grew up in South Jersey and Atlantic City, the Jersey Shore. Um, I grew up going to those beaches and those boardwalks. Early on it was Ocean City when I was a kid, obviously, and then as I got older and definitely tried gambling before the age of 21, as so many people from New Jersey try and do. That would definitely be the case for me. It's a kind of rite of passage, I think, of for kids who grew up in South Jersey specifically, that they would be able to do that. So yeah, I mean, I now it's specific. I was my one of my best friends growing up. We've been friends for over 20 years. Michael Atkins is now the executive director of the Atlantic City Arts Foundation as of basically almost a year.
Wow.
And yeah, and so this is a sort of interesting path towards his executive directorship that I have a very close connection to, being that we're very close friends, but also prior to him moving to Atlantic City about 3 years ago, um, and like commuting from Atlantic City to Trenton to work for like a state nonprofit called New Jersey Future. We were actually living in Los Angeles, and he had been there for almost 10 years. And I was actually there for throughout the pandemic since 2020, actually 2019. So for about 3 years solid, we were living in Los Angeles together, and having both grown up in South Jersey and went to the same high school. Both went to New York City. He went to NYU. I went to Juilliard. We just have remained so close in contact. And even at one point, we had we had a snack food company together that we kickstarted in, like 2012. I mean, like we've been fully not just friends, but he's been a producer and a collaborator and somebody that I can rely on so many levels. We even produced a documentary for WNET called The Journey Home, which was the culmination of 4 years of performing for military communities and academies around the country around the World War I centennial. He helped me produce a documentary of that final 2018 armistice year. So Michael and I, yeah, we were in Los Angeles, and we just had this kind of we were in the same bubble, together during the pandemic, and we had this kind of revelation that we were both going to come back to New Jersey after and be with our families and kind of put down roots back east. And that's what's happened. And now this is a bit of a culmination of years of manifestation, and talking and dreaming and scheming. And now we've got this amazing opportunity to present something that Michael has produced and I have done in different iterations with my pianist, and bring it to Atlantic City, to South Jersey, and bring it home. Really is really what it is. So I hope that's like not too much information, but it's definitely the honest, true answer of where we've come from and where we're going with this. And maybe something will come out of this for the future as well.
I love it. Yeah, I think number one, I love the Atlantic City Arts Foundation and Michael. I think they do amazing work in Atlantic City, and Atlantic City has kind of had an arts resurgence, renaissance. It's when I grew up here, and I'm a few years older than you, but when I grew up, there was nothing. There really wasn't. I mean, there were no coffee shops. Now there's an artist meetup every week at Heyday Coffee in Atlantic City. There really just wasn't a lot of culture. People would come here for the casinos. You get the casino shows and stuff like that, but it really wasn't like homegrown talent or something like your Grammy award winning opera singers weren't coming to Atlantic City to do fundraisers for the Arts Foundation 30 years ago. I don't think that was just a thing at all. And now, I mean, we have awesome stuff like the North to Shore Festival is a huge part of Atlantic City. And it's just, for me, to see this renaissance come and see the arts kind of pop up, it really just makes me super stoked about the future of Atlantic City, to see that it's not just going to be condos and casinos, but there is going to be a thriving art scene right here down the boardwalk from me.
Yeah, I think that people who aren't necessarily in the arts or aware of the arts, and don't take it in that way, and maybe there's no judgment against them, but it can be a sort of great surprise when the arts start to enter a community, and they start to transform it. And people who have been, like yourself, who've been living in Atlantic City for the past 30 plus years, are now seeing something that actually 30 years prior to that time frame, what Atlantic City was a major hub, like as we were saying, with the 500 Club, for the biggest, most important acts, solo and otherwise, of the 20th century. So, at a certain point, I think it deserves a kind of a resurgence of art, and the people locally, and people who have been coming from out of town for the past 30 years, I think it's a great place, specifically in New Jersey, to to allow for the resurgence, but also to invest in a resurgence of art and culture. Uh, and this is something that is very, specific to the work that the Atlantic City Arts Foundation is doing, and specifically what Michael's plan and vision is to sort of expand Atlantic City's reach statewide first and foremost, and then I think go out and become this, allow it to become this hub where people from all around, 100-mile plus radius can know that Atlantic City is going to have this amazing, burgeoning, interesting, forward moving art scene. um and just like, but more and more support that we can get with regards to that. And sadly, a lot of the arts are a political tool in our country. And when, very very much so, the arts should always be something that everybody from every corner of every side of the aisle can agree that we need. Because what are we really, celebrating in the country if not our storied history, and everything that we have to offer in terms of the output of amazing songs and plays and visual art that we have. It's something that I think it deserves more attention, it deserves more funding, and it deserves longevity in terms of the future and how we're seeing communities grow. So that's probably a long-winded answer to that, or just a response. But yeah, man, I mean, it's great to be at the sort of in this energy of Atlantic City kind of having a renaissance of sorts. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, I just have to thank you personally for supporting the Arts Foundation. And I have to ask, I mean, how does a kid from Jersey become an opera singer? Is this something that when did you first get into opera, and when did you first get into music and singing?
Yeah. So, well, first let me answer this one thing, because you said supporting the Arts Foundation, and I just want to say this very clearly, that our concert this Saturday, 8:30 p.m. at the Claridge Hotel in the Celebrity Theater, presented by North to Shore 609 Club, is a benefit concert for the Atlantic City Arts Foundation. So if you do want to come and attend, there will be both general admission tickets; those are going for about $30, and we have $150 VIP tables, which are really, really limited now. But Michael will be there. Members of the board of the Atlantic City Arts Foundation are also going to be there. We would love to meet new members of the community to come out for the event and support the foundation. That's what this concert is all about. So I just wanted to put that out there and make sure that that's really clear, and then get to your next part here. So basically, public school. I'm a product of Clearview Regional High School in Mullica Hill, New Jersey. My I was very, very fortunate. I don't know, what the deal is in terms of public school arts education at the moment, but when I was attending back in the 90s and early 2000s, uh, I was able to have choral teachers from the Westminster Choir College in Princeton be my choir teachers. And those gentlemen, Jack Hill, Anthony Sears, they were incredibly influential to me. Just, a young guy. My father's a pilot. My mom, stay-at-home mom. Neither of them had any musical background whatsoever. If it weren't for those guys, early on, and their love of the art form and their ability to teach singing to a young man growing up in rural South Jersey at a public school, I would not be doing this. So I've won a Grammy. I went to Juilliard. I've performed world premieres by the most leading major composers of our time at the highest level opera companies and festivals around the world, all because of the fact that my public school system funded its arts program. So just whoever's listening, take that into consideration, because it's true, and it's there's no other way to describe it for me. Yeah, I've got a lot of talent. That's natural. But if it weren't put in the right direction and I didn't have the right people to guide me, it wouldn't have been possible. So that's how it's possible. And then, you know, going to Juilliard when I was 18 years old and moving to New York City and living there for, basically a decade, I learned a lot about music, about art, about other people in the arts, different types of ways of performing, acting, and stage movement, and languages, and all the things that it has to offer. And I very specifically met my pianist and musical director, Peter Dugan, who is from Upper Darby, PA. Also, he's a big Phillies fan, big Eagles fan, and and he's very excited to be coming to. He's also spent a lot of time. He was just in Ocean City with his whole family a couple weeks ago, so he's excited to come back down, and we're really excited to do this program together.
That's amazing. Yeah, I have to mention, because you mentioned the Phillies, that sports fans might recognize your voice or your face from the New York Rangers home games. Can you tell me about how you started doing the national anthem for the Rangers?
Yeah, so that was during the pandemic, and it's been an amazing experience. I've loved it, and I'm really excited for this season as well. Um, so I know an agent slash big time musical director in the Broadway world, and it was, I think, January 2022, and we were talking, and he was like, "Hey, have you ever sung an anthem for a professional sports team before?" We were still like pretty much coming out of the pandemic at that point, and I was still in Los Angeles, sort of stuck there, and I was like, "No, I really have never done that. I've only done anthems for the military community when I was doing those recitals." And I would love to. And he's like, "Well, Madison Square Garden is considering a few. I've put forward a few opera singers for them to sing some games back to back, and they'd be interested in having you. So if you want to come." And I was like, "Oh, of course, I'm definitely going to come over to New York and sing at Madison Square Garden. That sounds amazing." Little did I know that that first game that I did, which was against the Leafs, I sang both the Star Spangled Banner and I sang "O Canada" back to back. That they had some of their teammates on Hot Mic on ESPN. It was an ESPN live show, which they aired the anthem, which was amazing. There was just a huge immediate uproar of just support for the anthem, for the performance of my anthem, and they had like their former captain on the Hot Mic being like, "We got to bring that guy back." And I think that just kind of like sparked this whole thing. And after that, they did get me back, and I sang that playoff run in 2022 for them, where they went all the way to the Eastern Conference Final, and they actually ended up beating and creating a new at-home playoff win record. And I was singing all those anthems, so there was a kind of special energy in the Garden during that time frame, and I think just this last couple seasons ago, they got really close again. And we'll see what happens in the future. But this coming season is the 100th anniversary of the Rangers, and I believe also of Madison Square Garden. And so I'm really excited to be a part of that.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I mean, obviously, good company with opera singers singing national anthems, or I not the national anthem, but Kate Smith famously sung "God Bless America" before the Flyers playoff run into the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
So I think that's absolutely amazing. You wouldn't think that opera and hockey would go together, but they do, and it's good luck.
Yeah, it's an energy thing. It's really being able to put forward that sort of, really sort of capture the moment and get the game going. I think because the energy at the face-off is just so intense, it's different than a baseball game, man. Throwing that first pitch is a big deal, but they're not literally face to face. Even with a kickoff too. You kick off the ball, you're gonna run it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's something about having like literally the teams just like being completely next to each other. It's closer to, I guess, basketball. The tip off sort of moment, but it's just so fast. It's so immediate. It's so intense. It's so physical that yeah, you need that moment that just like really feels like you can drive the energy into a really specific place. So yeah, yeah. I mean, there's been other opera singers in the past. The guy named Robert Merrill actually was a huge proponent for the Yankees for a long period of time, and he was a big time recorded baritone, American baritone who performed at the Met. So there's a history around it. It's very interesting, and it's cool to be a part of it now.
Yeah, and how did it feel to be down there on the ice with everybody looking at you? And I think you stand on a little carpet, right, when you do
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
How does that feel? Cold?
Yeah, it's amazing, man. I mean, at first few times, extremely nervous. It's a cappella. I don't have any backing track or anything, so you got to stay in tune. You got to remember the words, and then the teams, depending on who they are, the Rangers fans have their own sort of like interjections, but then like other teams will scream out something. The fans of other teams that are there at the Garden, they'll just say something, and you have to be ready to just sing right through it. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm there for the fans and the team, and to do the anthem, Star Spangled Banner, justice.
Yeah, and I have to ask you about O Canada. I went to school in Buffalo, New York, and so I heard the Canadian national anthem quite a bit at hockey games and football games and stuff. They did it for I think like basically everything, even like minor league baseball games, and because the Bisons are a Maple Leafs double A, triple A. They're an affiliate of the Maple Leafs. So
Okay.
how does it feel to sing "O Canada"? And do you have? I grew an amazing affection for that song. What about you? How do you feel about it? How do you feel about singing it?
Well, I have spent a lot of time in Canada, and actually, maybe this is a little bit of a segue, but I was just performing in Montreal at Opera de Montréal. I did my first La Boheme in May, and I will actually be back performing my first Don Giovanni in September and October of this year, just next month. And I've been all over the country of Canada. I've spent a lot of time in Canada. In some ways, I see myself as sort of like a honorary Canadian. Uh, and when I sing it, I feel a sense of home, in a different way than I think a lot of Americans would, having performed there so many times and spent so much time in different cities and having such a close relationship with Canadians. It is it's near and dear to me, and I think it will always be. Um, Montreal is one of my top three favorite cities in the in the United States. One of my top three favorite cities in North America. Um, it's an amazing place with such incredible history and art and culture and food. Oh my God, the food in Quebec it's literally like going to France, in North America. So
That's awesome. Yeah, and I have to back up just a little bit and ask you about the Grammy that you won for Fantastic Mr. Fox. And we're not talking about the movie or an audiobook version. It's the opera, which I never heard of until preparing for this interview. So how did you get working with that opera company and that show, and how did the Grammy come about?
yeah, so basically, the project was something that I started doing almost immediately out of my master's degree at Juilliard. I did 2 degrees, And so I graduated in my master's in 2013. And I believe in like 2014, we did the production. It started in San Antonio and then it went to Boston. And the piece is written by a guy named Tobias Picker. Um, and it's an adaptation of the Roald Dahl story with, libretto that was created around that. And then also Gil Rose picked it up to do the recording. And actually, it took a while for us to finish the recording after that. And it didn't get released. Like we recorded it, I think, in like right around like 2016 to 2018 time frame, and then they didn't release it for a couple of years after because it took so long to edit and produce and master and mix and all that stuff. It's a big deal to do like a full orchestration recording. And then the fact that like they applied for the Grammy, I had nothing to do with it. I did the recording, I performed the role, and now it's out there on all the major streaming services and whatnot. They applied. They applied for the Grammy, and we got accepted as nominated. And then when we went there, we were the winners, and it was just this amazing thing that just like it was the universe all coming together for the project. I just put my best effort forward on it, and now in the future I'm looking to do more albums. Some with my solo work, these songs even, that's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. How do I take the program that we're going to be doing in Atlantic City and turn that into a record? That's probably going to be coming around pretty soon. But yeah, I mean, it was an amazing, kind of work of God, that it was even possible.
That's amazing, and
Yeah.
congratulations. And yeah, you had mentioned the songs in Atlantic City. You're going to bring a pianist with you, Peter Dugan. This is somebody who you've performed with in the past. Is that correct?
Yeah, Peter and I have been working together. We started the same exact year at Juilliard, which was 2007. And we've been actually performing together since we were 18 years old when we started. We actually did our first recital in our first year there, which is not totally the case all the time, that you'll find and become friends with the pianist that you end up doing so much with. Um, so like half of our lives we've been working together at this point, and Peter's a is a very 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 close friend. We've gone all over the country, all over the world. We've done major song recital competitions in London and Montreal as well. Um, and we've just now we both live in the Montclair area, and I was just actually at his house just a couple hours ago running the program, which we originally created for Cafe Carlisle a couple of years ago when we had our Cafe Carlisle debut together in New York City.
Oh, that's awesome. And you've done, I mean, quite a bit. I was on your website. There's mention of the World War I memorial and song that you did with John. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, with Peter, yeah, I'm John.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah,
so
but yes,
sorry.
no worries. It's all good. But yeah, so those two projects, that was also that WNET documentary that I mentioned, The Journey Home. There's two full albums that are self-produced on Spotify, on Apple Music, etc., etc. Yes, the Memorial and Song and The Journey Home. The Journey Home is a live from the Kennedy Center uh, concert. So that was in 2018, around the centennial anniversary of the end of World War One, and the other program, Memorial in Song, was at the outset in 2014. That was our professional debut recital together, which was also at the Kennedy Center. So 4 years later, we went back and we did that sort of culminating performance. And altogether, I think there's like 50 plus songs by composers from all fronts of the war who actually participated in the war directly. Um, and so that was a project that was almost like, when I talk about it with people, I say that if I that was sort of my doctorate degree of after school. because it was 2014. It was immediately after graduating, and I just went on this deep, deep, deep dive, this deep journey into learning about all of this music from the early 20th century, which was the pivotal change point for classical music actually in the 20th century.
It's so cool. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing the beautiful work that came out of. I mean, these guys not just in World War One, but if I'm a fan of poetry and music, of course, and the music that comes out of conflict or the art that comes out of conflict is astounding. It's
Mm.
some of the most beautiful pieces of work have come out of these like horrible events, but we still have this. Kind of a moment in time that's captured, and a lot of times it'll capture beauty, sometimes it will capture sadness and tragedy, but absolutely amazing works of art that come out of this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I also noticed, you do something called Operation Superpower with schools in the area. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, that was something that has ended, but was very important. But that project has since, kind of been put to bed because it's uh, it's really meant for young artists to perform. The really young people that are coming out of like young performing artists, specifically opera singers that are coming out of programs. And maybe it's something that in the future, if we get around to it and the energy can be put towards it, we'll sort of re-engage with. But at this point, it was an amazing experience that we did during that time frame coming out of school. And we went to literally 100 plus schools in New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, and Pennsylvania. And performed this 1 hour long sort of assembly opera about, finding your unique voice, your superpower, and teaching kids that, the voice can actually be a superpower in this life. And so that was sort of the overarching message about that program. And it was, while it's not happening at the moment, it was a very influential experience for me to work with kids and in schools and be, to give back to public, private, charter schools in that way.
That's so amazing. Yeah, and thank you for doing that because I think it's so important as we, kind of circle it back around to what we were talking about before with your public school education and, having a music class and having teachers who, showed you the way and introduced you to music. I think it's really important. I think there's programs out there. There's one called Kid Pan Alley. I used to be a newspaper reporter here in South Jersey, and
Oh.
Kid Pan Alley is another program that goes around and does
Mm.
more of like the folk stuff, but they show kids. I think they actually write and record a song with these kids in the school during their program. And I just got back from the Philadelphia Folk Festival, and every year they do a thing called the Great Groove Band, and they get any kid who wants to do it. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they rehearse in the morning, and then on Sunday night, they are the first performers to perform on the Martin Guitar main stage, which is pretty cool. And so I was there yesterday, and I think they did 3 or 4 songs. Afterwards, they let every kid introduce themselves, which was really cool. And I just thought it was amazing that we are, as funding kind of gets cut, especially from the music classes and stuff like that there are these programs out there, and there are people like yourself who are willing to dedicate time and energy and finances to showing these kids like, hey, you can do something with your voice, you can use an instrument, and there's all sorts of ways to show your creativity with music, which I think is really important for kids.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It means so much. Those moments. I remember having, somebody come into school and offer something like that, and it just, it really just makes it so you really can connect with arts and with the people in the community, and it really helps develop a young mind, to be open to that sort of thing. So, I mean, I can't speak I can speak on this rather for hours, but I think, in some ways that's a different podcast
To-
episode.
Totally. Totally. I have to just a quick change gears here. I have to ask you, since you are going to be doing some Rat Pack classics reimagined this upcoming Saturday at the Celebrity Theater, and that's Saturday, August 23rd, at the Claridge Hotel in Atlantic City. Do you have a favorite member of the Rat Pack?
This has actually been something with the Rangers performances, or the games. I've actually been doing more and more of their songs during the second period intermission. I don't only do the anthem. So I've been, as that has opened up, I've also been rediscovering this music. So this has been a pretty recent thing for me, to dive deep into the Great American Songbook, and this whole history of music and performing in the style of performing, because so much of the effort and the work that I was doing up to this point has been very much dedicated to classical music and opera and other languages and other cultures, music and songs. And so this has been something that has really opened me up to what is America's history with regards to its music. And to name one specific artist right now, I guess the most influential person for me is Frank Sinatra. I kind of grew up, to be completely honest, not really liking him so much. And I think it wasn't until I had some, different life events and was ready to receive his voice in the way that it was. And also, I wasn't necessarily in my voice ready to sing his songs. And there's something that has just sort of clicked for me in the past 4 years, 3 years, where that I've developed such a close relationship to his recordings. I've listened to more Frank Sinatra and in the past 3 years than I ever have in the entirety of my life. Um, I've listened to his interpretations of songs, and I've gained such a deep respect for his performing, just his voice, just his delivery of songs. And now I really truly understand why people were so dedicated to him, as fans. And so there's a certain, I gotta say I gotta say Frank Sinatra right now, because it's like, it just really is. It's been a really interesting journey, and I have to also give Michael Atkins credit on this, because he was like, John, you got to do it. You got to look at this stuff. Like for years, he was like, you got to open yourself up to this repertoire. It's just too vast and too good. And, Frank he's from New Jersey, man. You gotta listen to him. You're also from New Jersey, dude. You can't not do this if you're going to have a Grammy and be from Jersey. Like, you got to do it.
That's
And
amazing.
so I did. And now here I am, man. And this is it.
Yeah,
This Saturday, August 23rd, is the first time I'm going to be performing in South Jersey in my entire career. So come on out, 8:30 p.m. Claridge Hotel, Celebrity Theater, 609 Club, benefit concert for the Atlantic City Arts Foundation, presented by the North to Shore Festival.
tremendous. And then, so we have the show this Saturday, and then you had mentioned you're going to be back in Montreal. Are there any shows that you would like to plug, or any other projects coming up where people can look out for you?
Yeah, man. I'm still at this point in my career where, like a lot of artists, we're making it work. Um, and in opera specifically, I'm doing a lot of opera. That is what's coming up in Montreal. I'm singing my first Don Giovanni. I'm 36 years old. I have hopefully a lot of life ahead of me, and a lot of experience coming for me with regards to different types of performing. And right now, I've got that. I'm doing probably the seventh iteration of a production of a brand new opera that was actually, the part was written for my voice by a guy named George Benjamin in London. And the librettist's name is Martin Crimp, and we're doing it. The opera is called Picture a Day Like This, and I'll be performing my debut in Italy. It's going to be my first performance period in the country of Italy. That's a professional performance. I've spent a lot of summers there studying, but this will be at the Teatro San Carlo in Napoli. So I'll be performing there in October. So if you want to come out to Naples, Italy, and see me perform a brand new opera, you're more than welcome. I'm sure it's going to be lovely weather in October. And then after that, I've got some other exciting things coming up, but they're not haven't been announced, and I can't talk about them yet.
Oh, that sounds awesome. I've neglected to ask you this before, but how many languages can you sing in?
Singing, I've sung in Italian, French, German, Russian, in Russia, actually. I've sung there in Moscow in Russian. Um, Obviously English. And I've sung in interesting languages like Czech. I've sung in Finnish. I just recently was in Sweden and I sang a couple of songs in Swedish to the Swedes. Um, I've sung in Icelandic, and the languages that I'm looking to get into in terms of songs. I've obviously also sung in Spanish, um, and Portuguese. Uh, I'm looking to potentially learn some songs in Korean. I think that they have some very interesting music and obviously a very big influence in terms of the music world. And so that's something that I'd be open to exploring at some point. And I think once or twice maybe I sang a song in Elvish. I don't know.
Oh, that's
I
great.
had I had a total fantasy themed program with Peter that we did at Carnegie Hall once, and I think there was a couple of Lord of the Rings inspired songs in there.
Oh, amazing. That sounds incredible. I'm a big Lord of the Rings guy,
Yeah, me too.
and I have to say I interviewed a band from Korea named ADG7 a few years ago. They performed at the Philadelphia Folk Festival, and they were
Cool.
incredible. I think they performed twice, and I watched both performances, and they were just absolutely amazing, and just the indigenous instruments that they were playing were just so cool. I spent most of the podcast like just trying to get an understanding of like what these woodwind instruments and these different percussions that they were playing. It was just absolutely amazing. So, really, I good on you for really expanding yourself. And how do you approach that? I mean, are you just learning the actual pronunciation of the words, or are you trying to understand the meaning? So like getting the translation and then going into it. What's that process like to sing in a language that you've never sung before or presumably don't speak?
Yeah, I mean, that was a huge component of my studies at Juilliard. It was primarily by way of learning songs, and then also like as you got better and better with the language and the structure of the diction of the language, like French in particular, is you have to spend 2 full years, 3 days a week when you start French, because it's so hyper specific, and so just, if you're going to sing French for French people, you need to know what you're doing. I mean, that's true of any language, but they're the most picky of their language because it is in some ways the most sensitive, um and it's the hardest to sing. It's lovely, it's amazing to sing in, but it is the hardest to sing in, for so many people, especially if you're not a French speaker. But even if you are a French speaker as well, it's still hard to sing in. But the point is like you need to know almost like how a mechanic will take apart a car, and that's how a language can be dissected into its you know sound components. It's we do phonetic training and learning how the mouth can shift from an E vowel to an U vowel, because that's a sound that is very, very present within French and also German, um, and things like that. Like, and then applying that experience over and over and over and over and over and over again, in settings where you can then repeat and muscle memory will kick in, and then you're learning the language. It's not easy. It's not the it's not a walk in the park, but it is very, very, very rewarding when a native speaker of another language will come up to you and say, I understood every single word that you sang, and it was you know clear as a bell for me. It's really cool.
Oh, that is so cool. Well, John, thank you so much. I ask every guest three final questions. They're
Yeah.
quickies. Before that, was there anything that I should have mentioned that I didn't mention, or anything that I should have asked that I didn't ask?
I don't really know, man. I feel like we touched on a lot of topics and a lot of interesting things, with regards to my story. Um, I think, you know, no, I think we're good. I feel very satisfied with our communication, with our chat.
Tremendous. That means a lot to me.
Yeah.
So John, three final questions. The first one is, what was the first concert that you ever attended?
Wow. First concert. First concert. It's gonna have to probably be either a Philadelphia Orchestra concert. I think that might have been what it was, like a Vivaldi Four Seasons plus a Mahler song performance by a guy named Thomas Hampson, I think is really what it was. And I was maybe like 14, 15 years old. And then beyond that, it was like Metropolitan Opera, seeing at 15 years old, La Traviata, which was extremely, again, that was led by my choral director, loving and knowing opera and taking his students on a field trip, you know. Major, major, major influence for me.
So cool. I just saw the Philadelphia Orchestra. They did Star Wars: A New Hope at the Mann Center, and it was absolutely incredible. So
I've never seen any of the John Williams or other, composers' live music, orchestrated soundtrack experiences. I've always been curious about that.
it was an amazing experience. And then, curiously, when I was there for Fish, and I was talking to a guy in line, and he said he saw them do Lord of the Rings at the Mann
Mm,
Center, and
cool.
that would have been amazing. But it was one of those things where I was like, when I'm not a big I don't actively seek out classical music, so I'm like, when else am I going to see an opportunity or have an opportunity
Totally.
to see the Philadelphia Orchestra? And it was breathtaking. It was absolutely an amazing experience.
Yeah,
So
man.
shout out to the Philadelphia Orchestra. So cool.
That's awesome.
What was the first album that you either bought or received as a gift? What was your first album?
I think maybe it's close to like it being like Simon and Garfunkel, Sound of Silence.
Oh yeah, good one.
Yeah, I think that was an early one for me. I just remember playing it over and over and over, and just I think the harmonies. Obviously, I was singing at a young age, so like singing along with them was an easy thing for me to do and get into. So, but another guy that I was always really into was I kind of fell into it. I'm not sure. Maybe it was from the commercial, the Sony commercial. Was Jose Gonzalez. I don't
Uh,
know if you know that name.
it doesn't ring a bell, unfortunately, but I'm gonna be
Yeah,
doing some Spotifying after this call.
he's fantastic. Like he's kind of maybe not as popular as he used to be at one point, but as a solo guitarist, and some of the songs that he wrote are really substantial, and I think that was like another really substantial non-classical artist early on for me.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it when somebody brings something new to the table, and I have to go look it up, and hopefully the listeners do too. Um,
Yeah.
Last question is, what is your favorite soundtrack or score from a movie? And the caveat here is that musicals don't count.
Mm. Favorite soundtrack
Or
or
score.
score of a movie
Yeah.
or score? Yeah. That's really hard. Like I want to say like literally everything by John Williams.
It's not a bad answer.
I mean, it's hard to beat, but what specifically of his really like just moves me? They're so iconic, man. They're all so iconic. It's so hard to pick one of his. He's such a genius, he's really kind of like he's on such a high level of music making. Man, it's so hard to pick one. It's so difficult. This is gonna sound crazy, but Home Alone.
Oh, good one.
Because it's so, he adapts Tchaikovsky in it. I don't know if a lot of people are very aware of that, but that's actually the Nutcracker that he like reimagines for like the music of like getting ready for them to like leave for the airport. And then just like the whole like na da dee da dee da yo dee da do dee da da, like so much of his melodies, I feel like after that come from that. Like they're all so memorable and so like extrapolated into like so much of the music that he did later. And that he did before. It just kind of like is a pinnacle point because it's also like a kid's movie, and it's like it's like a non story of like all the things that like Jurassic Park and E.T. and that's Star Wars and Harry Potter. I mean, these huge characters, these massive. It's just so simple. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that's maybe my favorite soundtrack of any movie.
It's so good. I'm so happy that you brought that up because that's like people think of course, Star Wars. I think of Indiana Jones. And but yeah,
but they're all so epic already. Like the stories are like, it's not a kid that's like left at his house. Like,
right.
Like there's really there's really like no big story. If you really look at it, it's just like a goofy film.
It's so cool. Well, that's great. Well, John Brancy, thank you very much. People can get The Journey Home live from the Kennedy Center, pretty much anywhere you can get music, right?
Yep.
Awesome. And then we have this Saturday right here in Atlantic City, Saturday, August 23rd at the Claridge Hotel, the 609 Club, bringing a little Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack back to South Jersey. Of course, with Peter Dugan on piano. So, John, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, and tickets can be purchased at 609club.eventbrite.com.
I'm going to link it up in the show notes. So everybody go and support the Atlantic City Arts Foundation and the North to Shore Festival.
Thank you so much, Sean. It's been great.
I don't think anyone wants to hear about football/soccer.
Oh man, I'm stoked. I'm in the parking lot of a 7-Eleven in El Cajon, California. Man, these are great questions.
I think the answers are probably better.